All right, all right. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to everyone who is joining us today for the Know It All podcast. We are moving on up. This is episode 9. I'm really excited to talk with you today. So without further delay, let's get started. Of course, again, I want to welcome you to episode 9 of the Know It All podcast. I am incredibly grateful for the supporters and the subscribers thus far. Where we've cracked 100 subscribers. We had 107 subscribers, but we have over 28,000 views on our page. I've been posting a lot of shorts and content around motivation and inspiration, and I'm hoping that I'm actually inspiring people to create the best versions of themselves. That is one of my goals. Of course, again, I'm your host, Quick Jigs, and the title of today's episode is Embrace Your Fears. And the goal behind today's episode is we're going to talk about the importance of doing things that scare you. This is a topic that is personally very dear to my heart because I know that facing your fears can be scary, but I also know how incredibly rewarding it can be. And kind of the foundation behind today's episode was sparked by one of my favorite content creators on TikTok. I am one of those people that is incredibly addicted to TikTok. I believe in a positive way, but it's this gentleman. His name is Your Pal _Austin. And he makes really great socially conscious and comedic content. But a video he posted recently this past weekend sparked this topic of today's episode because he narrated a current event that he's dealing with, where he is working on an acting role with a major movie. This is a major Western. He said it has 4 parts. He was signed on to do at least the first 2 parts of this series. And part of the requirements for the role included his ability to ride a horse. And originally, when this stipulation was given, he kind of underplayed the significance, looked at it in a way of, kids can ride horses. Of course, I can learn how to ride a horse in no time. But in short, he really botched the approach to this opportunity by not taking the goal of learning how to ride a horse seriously. So he basically had one training session, and his lack of ability to ride a horse was a glaring part of his part in this role. To his internal review of being, embarrassed and overcome with disappointment because of how well he performed on the horse in this first part of filming. As they wrapped up the filming for the first movie, he made a personal promise to the director that he was going to do everything necessary to learn how to truly ride a horse before filming for the second movie began. And he did exactly that. This is where he embraced what he was afraid of. He embraced what was scary, what was uncomfortable, but he was committed to his goal. So over the course of the next 6 months, he wanted to meet this fear head on, as he put it, with reverence and respect, but with also the notion of declining the fear's invitation to turn and run. So instead, he decided to face it head on and spent these next 6 months learning to master the art of riding a horse, even though it gave him all types of psychological problems as far as just mentally weighing on him and how much of a lack of comfort and fear he had in learning this ability. But although the progress was slow, which also weighed on him mentally, he eventually worked through all those mental and physical blockers, and he became a competent rider of a horse. His insecurities and his fears were not greater than his will to develop a skill outside of his comfort zone. And that's what I want for all of you today, is to understand that everything you want is outside of your comfort zone. Everything you want to achieve and become is outside of your comfort zone. So you have to, in short, become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And again, think about this. I want you to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Learn to manage your fear and to use it as fuel to overcome whatever challenges before you. And I don't want to just use this episode to give you hyperbole and overarching themes of basically pull yourself up by your bootstraps type of mantra, but I want to give you some real life skills that you can apply beginning today to learn how to be comfortable outside of your comfort zone. So without further delay, let's get started. So, as I stated, today's episode is all around getting around your fears and the importance of facing them head on. And there's a quote that I love that perfectly sums up the importance of facing your fears. It's from an author and a motivational speaker, Les Brown. Likely you've heard of him before, but it's a very short quote. It says, "Too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fears." Think about that. Are you living your dreams or are you living your fears? Are you in a monotonous situation that is redundant and underwhelming and not where you want to be because you fear what it would take to get to that next stage? If this describes you at any stage in your life, then this episode of the Know It All podcast is all for you. So let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is why we fear the unknown. It's important to kind of understand where this foundation comes from. I have no scholarly evidence to give you about this. This is based on my anecdotal experience, but I feel like fear is a natural human emotion. It's what has kept us safe for centuries, from being prey to finding shelter to knowing not to live this close to water where there could be a mudslide, or not to live near this volcano, or whatever scenario you want to insert here. Fear has been a great ally to the human evolution for many, many centuries. However, our fears in our lives today can often hold us back from doing the things that we really want to do. To give you a little bit of background, I remember the very first time I faced fear head on as an adult. And it was an incredibly scary time, but it was also incredibly liberating for me. I had just left my corporate job that paid really well. I had a really convincingly great title, assistant vice president. I was, in my mind, somebody. My business card said I was somebody, but the fulfillment was not there to make me really feel like somebody. I had always wanted to be a successful entrepreneur. I had dabbled, so stayed in the safe way of approaching entrepreneurship for a really long time. But when I left this last corporate job in 2017, it was time for me to really be a successful entrepreneur. At this time, of course, I didn't have any clients or income from my entrepreneurial efforts as a consultant. So I was struggling a great deal financially. I also recently just emerged from my divorce, raising my kids. Kids are expensive. But instead of giving up, I decided to take action. I started reading books and attending networking events. And also in the meantime, to keep food on the table and to somewhat keep the lights on, because they did go out a couple of times, to somewhat have a roof over my head, because I'll tell you more about how I faced eviction on a constant basis. I was driving for Uber and Lyft. And pretty much when I did not have my kids, I was out driving for Uber and Lyft, picking up as many passengers as I could. Again, this is circa 2017, 2018. I believe I actually started driving for Uber in 2016. But my income had me in perpetual debt because I just wasn't earning enough. It didn't matter how much I worked. I just wasn't making enough for my expenses as a responsible father. I was literally up for eviction every single month for over a year. Every single month, I was a heartbeat away from eviction. And excuse me, I do stutter sometimes. No one except for maybe 2 or 3 people knew truly how much I was going through. My kids certainly did not know. They didn't know that at one point I was so close to eviction that eviction was on Thursday morning, and I was hustling to make money before 8 a.m. Thursday, that Wednesday evening, to avoid the eviction. So I'm talking about having to hustle up $500 to close that gap and to avoid the eviction. And I was so stubborn in what I believe to be a good way, though it could have bit me in the ass, that I hadn't even packed anything. So I'm talking about waking up Wednesday morning knowing that 9 a.m. Thursday morning, a sheriff was going to show up to my door to evict me. I hadn't packed a thing. hadn't packed anything, put any clothes away, certainly hadn't mentioned it to the people who I love the most, certainly didn't mention anything about it to my young children. But I was determined that I was going to find a way out of this situation. And me packing was almost like me accepting the fate of the eviction. Now, again, this could have burned me because I could have got evicted and all my shit would have been thrown into trash bags and that entire scenario would have played itself out. But I really felt like I had to go about it this way because I didn't want to settle on the eviction being my reality. So instead, I just kept the train moving like nothing was wrong. And I want to pause for a moment here and clarify a bit. When you are facing a challenge, always be fearless and face it head on. A lot of times, as I think about how I mentioned I kept the train moving like nothing was wrong, that doesn't mean that I wasn't addressing the issue. It means that I was not wasting time feeling sorry for myself. And I definitely didn't put my head in the sand and pretend nothing was wrong. So when I say keep the train moving, that doesn't mean pretend nothing's wrong and also take no action towards it. It means take purposeful action that creates favorable results. I hope I clarified that. I want to get back to the story. But I finally got a breakthrough when I got a contract that was literally 70% less in income than I made in my last job. But it was a great opportunity with a growing company that would give me an opportunity to truly be a consultant and be a 1099 and work for myself, and create some social proof, some clientele, some proven value. And I knew that if I convinced them that I was this person, then there was a lot of upside with this client. And I was absolutely right. I learned a lot. I asked a lot of questions. And in the meantime, I did continue to do Uber and Lyft. And eventually I was able to prove my value to this first client enough for me to get bigger contracts year over year until I finally made it. So I went from making 70% less than in my last job to quadrupling my last job's income. And this was over the course of about 20 months that seemed like a lifetime. It seemed like forever. So first of all, you have to persevere. One thing that really helped me to overcome my fear of the unknown was taking small steps outside of my comfort zone. It's important to recognize that facing your fears doesn't have to mean doing something huge or scary all at once. It can start with small steps, but by doing something that makes you a little uncomfortable, you gradually work your way up to bigger challenges, bigger events that take you further out of your comfort zone. So it's almost like building up a tolerance to that discomfort. And once you recognize what brings you peace, that is a great ally through the scenario as well. For me personally, the gym brings me peace. Working out brings me peace. That's my happy place. It's why it's easy for me to be consistent with the gym because it's something I want to do. Even when it's a workout I don't want to do, I know that it's something I want to do. It's a place that brings me happiness, and it helps me to keep a level of peace that I wouldn't otherwise have. So know what gives you peace and what motivates you and what brings you positive energy, and use that as fuel to help you navigate through that uncomfortable zone. One of my favorite authors is he's also, I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a gentleman by the name of Brian Tracy. He has dozens of quotes that are really useful, but one that always resonates with me is, he said, move out of your comfort zone. You can only grow if you are willing to feel awkward and uncomfortable when you try something new. And this can apply in anything. I'm willing to dance. I'm not a very good dancer. I'm willing to sing. I'm not a very good singer. But once you are able to navigate to a better place and not worry about how you'll be received and how others will look at you, you'll find how much easier it is to be successful and to build and grow. Fear of failure. That is the second point around why people don't do the things that they want to do, why they don't pursue their goals. One of the biggest fears that many of us face is simply that, the fear of failure. We're so afraid of not succeeding that we don't even try. But as the saying goes, failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. I'll say that again. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of success. In fact, some of the most successful people in the world have failed many times before achieving their goals. Rather, we're talking about Oprah, who started here in Baltimore on WJZ, Channel 13, J.K. Rowling. We all know how much the Harry Potter books have taken off, but it didn't start that way. Steven Spielberg, read their stories. They're just a few examples of people who faced failure before achieving success. And one of, I was going to say one of my heroes, but one of the world's heroes, gentleman who spent, I believe it was 29 years in prison, if I recall correctly. Blame my history teacher if I misrecalled that. If I got it right, it's all because of me. But Nelson Mandela, he said what I think perfectly sums up the importance of facing your fear of failure. And he basically said, the greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. So you're going to fall, you're going to fail, but you have to know how to overcome your fear and how to fail. And one way to overcome your fear of failure is to reframe your mindset. Instead of viewing failure as a stop or a pause or a negative, view it as an opportunity to learn and grow. When you fail, you gain valuable experience that you can use to improve and do better next time. Through my efforts as an entrepreneur, I've learned so much from failing, whether it's in my marketing efforts or how well I consulted with a client, resources I use to build a brand, whatever it may be. And the greatest rapper of all time, a gentleman by the name of Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z, put it perfectly when he said, I will not lose, for even in defeat, there's a valuable lesson learned, so it evens it up for me. That was during the battle with Nas, where unfortunately Nas kicked his ass, but Jay did his thing. He held his ground. He's still the GOAT as far as I'm concerned. But in short, every experience is an opportunity to learn and grow in winning, and most importantly, in defeat. So use everything as fuel. So instead of running away and cowering, you want to attack your failure head on. Again, it is incredibly important. We all know that Thomas Edison was an incredibly accomplished inventor. We could talk later about if any of that was stolen, because I've heard stories as far as information and intellectual property that he appropriated for himself. But we know the sign of the times, and that happened often. But that's not what I'm talking about today. One of his most famous quotes was, I have not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work. So you're not failing. You're getting intelligence and information to build and learn and to get better. Moving on. You have to learn to overcome the fear of rejection. Another fear that many of us face is just the fear of rejection in general. We're afraid to put ourselves out there and risk being rejected or criticized, judged, however you want to put it into a box. I know most young men, especially remember early on being fearful of stepping to a girl that you were interested in because you didn't want to be rejected, especially if she was with friends. You didn't want to go through that. But I don't recall which friend said it, but one of my homeboys basically said to me at some point, what's the worst that could happen? Just be yourself and shoot your shot. And once you realize what's the worst that can happen, she says no. What's the worst that happens if I cold call this potential client? They say no. But everything that good can happen is in between that yes and that no. It might be a maybe. It might be, let's talk about it later. It might be, I'm not quite sure, tell me more. But it's not life or death. So once you go into a challenging scenario and you realize the worst that can happen is no, then use that small moment in time to evolve into whatever you want to be. Remove the fear of rejection and carry around the idea that the same as when I approach clients now is, how do I get them to say yes versus, oh no, they might say no. Understanding how to listen, how to learn were important attributes for my growth and development of my business, but understanding the truth of rejection being just part of the game is incredibly important in whatever you may be pursuing. Excuse me. The truth is, rejection is a natural part of life. It's impossible to please everyone, and not everyone is going to like or agree with what you do or want to be around whatever it is that you're offering that may be rejected. But one way to overcome your fear of rejection is to focus on your own goals and your values. Keep the train moving on. KIM, keep it moving. When you have a strong sense of purpose, you're less likely to be affected by the opinions of others. When you realize that whatever occurs after you make your proposition, if it's a no, if it's a yes, if it's a maybe, if you're ignored, if they say, tell me more, is an opportunity to learn and grow and become better. The importance of fear being a perfectly aligned asset to you is incredibly important. And I find that it's more helpful to get there when you can continuously promote a positive state of mind. Don't let your fear cripple you and keep you from obtaining your goals. Instead, use it as a step or a stage in the process of reaching your ultimate goals in life, and enjoy all the learnings along the way. Because again, you're going to get punched in the mouth. You're going to fail. You're going to fall on your face. But you have to be your very best and most important asset, your best advocate, your biggest motivator, and your biggest cheerleader. Now, conversely, one of the other challenges is a fear of success. But believe it or not, the fear of success is a real thing. And for those who may not have ever thought about it, I want to help narrate it a bit for you. But the fear of success is not only a real thing, but it can hold us back just as much as the fear of failure or rejection. Ever heard of someone who self-sabotages? You likely hear about this most often, I believe, in relationships, where if you watch a reality show, you might see a person who is self-sabotaging their relationship because they fear a stable or successful relationship. They're used to unstable, so they're willing to get in the way of a more positive event because of their fear. Others do it for careers where they avoid promotion or advancement, school, financial challenges, or financial evolutions like buying a home or car, and everything else in between. People are always attempting to protect themselves from being hurt and let down by failure. So they'd rather avoid success and know what's going to happen and be in control as they may see it than walk into their success like they've been there. My all-time favorite football player, he also happens to be the greatest running back of all time, Barry Sanders, I think illustrates this state of pretending or behaving as if I've been here before really, really well. So Barry Sanders, for those who were fans of Barry Sanders or, of course, watch the NFL in general, you're likely aware of this. But for those who don't, every time Barry Sanders scored a touchdown, he would take the football and just hand it to the ref and go back to the sidelines. For me, even at the time as a young kid, this was an incredible attitude to have towards scoring, because he behaved every time he scored like not only was it going to happen again, but he had been there before. So there was no reason for him to act extraordinary. This is what I do. I score touchdowns. So I don't have to be over the top. And I don't think it's bad if you are the type that celebrates. But I think that's an incredible mind state to have of, I've been here before. I'm going to be here again. So let's just keep it moving. That attitude of expecting to achieve your goal just helps you to remain narrow-minded toward achieving your goal and to avoid unnecessary distractions that work and prey on your fear. The control of your mind is your most incredible ability, and it's an ever-changing challenge. We may be afraid of changes that come with success or the responsibilities that come with it, but on our way to overcome our fear of success, it's incredibly helpful to visualize yourself succeeding. Imagine what your life would be like if you achieved your goal, and focus on the positive aspects of that success rather than just harping on the negative components. There's a quote from Tony Robbins that I think perfectly captures the importance of overcoming the fear of success, where he said, success is buried on the other side of rejection. Again, success is buried on the other side of rejection. So don't be afraid of success. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid of rejection. Go after all of it. And what I would like to say to conclude this episode of the Know It All podcast is facing your fears is not easy, but it is incredibly rewarding. By taking action and stepping outside of your comfort zone, you can overcome your fears and achieve your goals. But always remember, it's important to start small. It's important to start in general. You know, every journey begins with one step. Every marathon begins with one step. Everything begins with one step. Reframe your mind and focus on your goals and values, and remember to visualize your success. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of being punched in the mouth. Don't be afraid to succeed. Embrace everything along the journey. Celebrate small steps, but also behave like you've been there before and you expect to be back. And before I go, I want to leave you with one final quote from author and motivational speaker Robin Sharma. He said, "Change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end." Again, change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. I hope the message that I've shared with you today has been incredibly powerful. I'm hoping that you are energized and ready to take on whatever challenges are before you. As always, I would like to thank you for listening to the Know It All podcast. I hope that you are inspired. Again, you are ready to take on your fears, take action towards achieving your goals. And until next time, stay motivated, stay positive, always keep learning, and always, please, 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 like, share, comment, subscribe. And in conclusion, as always, make it a great day on purpose. Thank you, thank you, thank you.